And a TGIF, everyone. Welcome into the First Call podcast alongside Scott Shapiro. I'm Jeremy Plonk. Sad news, of course, in horse racing. Last Saturday, the passing of our great friend Jeff Siegel, just shy of his 75th birthday. Jeff was the creator and the curator of this podcast, co-hosted with me for several years, and this was a podcast. It was a spinoff of his First Call TV show back in the HRTV days. We transitioned to First with the one in the ST, and the show came along for the ride with the First Call as well. We're going to continue the First Call podcast. Scott Shapiro has been filling in since late February, early March for Jeff, and look forward to continue working with Scott on this podcast. But certainly, we dedicate the podcast today and all to in the future to our host emeritus, Jeff Siegel. Again, in loving memory to Jeff, just a friend to all and a great handicapper who did a wonderful job on this podcast. It was his races and his format, so he picked the races and which races he wanted to look at each and every week. And Scott, you've been taking on that responsibility for the past several months, and look forward to you continue doing so. So welcome in, I guess, to this week's podcast. And please share. I had a chance on Tuesday to talk a lot about Jeff on the It's Official podcast, but allow you to have the floor for just a moment to talk about our good friend.
Yeah, obviously sad news, as too soon is easily said. But I know one thing. I didn't know Jeff as well as you, but I was lucky to live out in Southern California 2 stints, but 1 stint when I was just kind of coming up, if you will, trying to make my hay in this industry. And I spent my first 4 or 5 years trying to do so out there. And, Jeff was not in the press box like he was in some of those great pictures that you might have seen online where he was dominating and controlling the pick sixes. But occasionally he would be up there. He was more down in the, a lot of times down in that new studio and whatnot, right. Doing the XBTV. And, he wasn't there every day all the time. But I did get to speak to Jeff a lot. It wasn't always about horses. It was a lot of times about what you would think, college hoops, UCLA. I was a diehard Wisconsin hoops fan, at that time. Right. And Jeff obviously I think he was gone on the road with UCLA in some of those situations. But, I knew Jeff before that, obviously, and I knew a lot of these people. But I always remember when I found XBTV, or I think it might have been added to the package along with TVG, and just really, him and Aaron Veracruz with Aaron, right. They really were amongst those that really turned me on to the idea of doing what I'm doing and helped me get better thinking outside the box. So, I don't have all the stories that a lot of people do, but I know they're true, what people say about Jeff. And one of the all-time great pick six players and handicappers. And me and him, we didn't know each other at the time, but we both were this close to a Derby. Captain Bodgett, one of my all-time favorites.
Yeah, the funny thing is I picked Jeff to win the Derby one year with the Deputy. He had the Santa Anita Derby winner back in 2000. Fupeg ended up winning it that year. And the funny thing is, years later, I told Jeff, I said, man, I loved your horse in the Derby, the Deputy. And he thought I was talking Captain Bodgett. And I said, no, the Deputy. He goes, boy, I wish I would have known you back then. I'd have told you to save your money. The Deputy didn't run that well in the 2000 Derby. Didn't follow up on the Santa Anita Derby success. But that was Jeff, always willing to share a story. We've been holding the seat for him here, hopeful over the last several months, obviously, as he battled cancer and the difficult health challenges that he had. And we held the seat for him, and hopefully in the good spot that we know he's in right now up in heaven, he'll hold the seat for us, and we'll get a chance to play the races with him again sometime down the line. So we'll join you again someday, pal. We will talk more about horse racing right now, though, as we get set, as Jeff would love this Friday at Santa Anita. It was his backyard. It was his race place, the great one, in fact, the great race place. And the carryovers are galore today at Santa Anita and also in the wagers on Friday that mix with Gulfstream Park. Let's take a look at some of these massive carryovers that we're looking at across the country today, specifically in the Sunset 6, 54,000 plus in the Sunset Pick 6. That's the final 3 races on the card at Gulfstream, the final 3 races on the card at Santa Anita. $1 Pick 6, that goes today. Scott's got handicapping analysis of that up at the Express Bet and First Bet websites that you can read in print form. The Coast to Coast Pick 5, which matches 5 races each day at Gulfstream and Santa Anita, also a $1 wager. The Coast to Coast Pick 5, 48,661 in the carryover in that pool. Gulfstream races 6, 7, and 8. Santa Anita races 1 and 3 today. In the traditional pick six, the $2 pick six at Santa Anita, 45,583 in the carryover there. That'll be races 4 through 9 on the card today at Santa Anita. And if that's not enough, if you get to the 9th race, maybe you're sitting on a single in the 9th race and all these multi-race wagers, you could take down a super high five as well at Santa Anita, 35,706 in the carryover there. What a Friday for carryovers. Then you got a little carryover at Aqueduct in the pick six and a big carryover at Keeneland in the pick six of $103,000. So this is a really good Friday for the wagering world, including the Sycamore Stakes, Scott. And the Sycamore Stakes, part of our Breeders' Cup Bankroll Challenge with First Bet and Express Bet. Bet $25 on the Sycamore Stakes today. Get $5 back in your account come Breeders' Cup Eve, and you'll have that money to bet on the Breeders' Cup. So series of stakes races over the next month that can help you build up that bankroll towards the Breeders' Cup. What a Friday, man.
Yeah, this is a Friday that kind of bumps you up to Saturday now. You know, we have a 3-day weekend, but I'm always geared up to gamble on Saturday after working the week and handicapping those races. But you get a little head start, you know, with the work, like you said, that I did Friday for this. I did some on the sequences for the daily racing form. And these are good sequences. These are player-friendly wagers for the most part anyway, without the carryover, 15%. The retail-only part, very key to me in that Sunset 6. Yeah, the pools aren't as big, but you're not playing against the CAWs. One thing now, though, for those that are not really normally watching this for up-to-date news, but they are off the turf at Gulfstream for the sequence today on Friday, or sequences.
All right, that's good to know. Very good to know. Let's take a look at the schedule of races we're going to handicap on this podcast as we do each and every Friday. We pick 8 races from around the country. We've got one special one for you on Friday for all of the carryover situations that we've got to look at today, and then also 7 stakes races for you on Saturday. For those of you watching on X or on Twitter, be sure to like, share this out, help us build the audience for not only this podcast, but also the podcast that Bailey Armour and Scott do, the named Horse Sense with First Bet and Express Bet. Be sure to like and share these out and check out our YouTube pages. But for those of you on our traditional audio channels who've been listening for years on these podcasts, here are the races Scott and I are going to handicap over the next half hour or so. We'll start with race number 7 at Santa Anita on Friday. It's an allowance race. It's part of almost all of the sequences we're going to talk about with all those different carryovers. Then to Saturday, we've got a lucky 7-pack for you on Saturday. We'll start with the California Flag Stakes at Santa Anita. We'll go to Keeneland for the Queen Elizabeth II Challenge Cup. To Belmont at the Big A, they've got a couple stakes races, the Artie Schiller and the Glen Cove. Woodbine Ontario Fashion Stakes on the schedule. And then it's kind of like feast week, if you will, the conference championships. We're going to Maryland for Maryland Million Day at Laurel Park. The Maryland Million Classic will be the stakes race we handicap there. And to Charlestown for the West Virginia Breeders' Classic. We'll wrap things up with a little nighttime action in Charlestown in the voice of Paul Espinosa. We'll get to hear him later on the show.
Underrated caller, and lucky 7 on the 11th. So 7-11 there.
There you go. How can we lose? Let's get after it, man. Let's go.
Send it in. Send it in.
Race number 7, Allowance Company on Friday at Santa Anita. Again, this is a Friday race, second level allowance, mile and an eighth on the grass. This is part of the 7th, 8th, and 9th, part of the Sunset Pick 6. It's part of the Santa Anita Pick 6. It's part of just about everything you want to play this weekend, it seems like, on Friday. So let's get after the 7th race. Who do you like?
Not a part of the coast to coast, though. I think that's what.
Yeah, that's what almost caught me.
Condensed. Yeah, that's more condensed. But good race. Good race. I don't think there's any world beaters in this 9 furlong affair, but it's second level allowance. You know, gone that distance on the turf. And Certitude is a 2-1 morning line favorite, but I've got concerns about her ability to get that mile and an eighth distance and do so without being pressed maybe a little bit. There's 2 horses that I'm going to use in the sequence. I'll throw out the longer shot first, since it's not my top pick. The 5, Hannah Buckle, who's third off the layoff for Leonard Powell, needs to move forward, but gets the most distance in her career. She's got the pedigree to do so and should be ready for her best theoretically. Third off the bench. But I think Paradise Lake is the one to beat. It looks like it doesn't look like. She's been freshened up since July 31st. The race we'll take a look at in a moment. But prior to that, she won at this mile and an eighth distance and did so over this turf course. Both of her wins have come here at Santa Anita, and we've talked about it. I know you and Jeff did in the past. there is differences between these turf courses. So an affinity for one versus the other certainly can be an advantage. So for me, it's 7-5 with Paradise Lake on top.
Close up third at Del Mar last time. Now gets leading Santa Anita jockey Juan Hernandez aboard. Let's go back to Paradise Lake at Del Mar in July 31st.
Side, Vibes comes out there 3 wide in behind them. Then Baltic Fire run a mile in my shoes, cutting the corner, and Hopeful on the far outside, and they're into the stretch. Rugalak and Candy Bar, Vibes to the outside of them. Center of the course, Hopeful trying to put in a bid. Also, Paradise Lake is splitting horses late. Yohani from far behind has made good progress as well. A driving finish. Who's it going to be? It's going to be a photo finish that went to Baltic Fire at 50-1.
Kind of prices we get in the Sunset Pick 6. Scott's pick here in race number 7 at Santa Anita Paradise Lake, hopefully to get you going there. Starting at 4:04 today, that Sunset Pick 6 with the 7th, 8th, and 9th at Gulfstream. $54,000 carryover, followed up by the 7th, 8th, and 9th at Santa Anita. Again, we've got a big one there. And also in the Coast to Coast Pick 5, nice carryover again, $48,000 plus the $1 minimum, 15% takeout. Coast to Coast Pick 5 offered each and every race day where there is live action at both Santa Anita and Gulfstream. So Friday, Saturday, Sunday this week. From Friday, we go to Saturday, and Saturday's card at Santa Anita includes the California Flag Stakes, down the hill turf sprinting. It couldn't be anything else. If there's a California Flag Stakes and it's not a downhill turf sprint, you're just doing it wrong. One of the better turf sprinters in Southern California, one of the best Calbred turf sprinters, maybe of all time. California Flag here, 6.5 down the hill. We got a field of 8 entered. Which one are we narrowing it down to, Scott?
Well, I think it's an interesting race because you've got Lovesick Blues. We'll take a look at his upset victory in the Bing Crosby in a moment. But he's coming in a rare prep for the Breeders' Cup Sprint in the California Flag. No disrespect to the race, but a state-bred down-the-hill turf race. Generally not what you use to prepare for that Grade 1 stakes race on the dirt. But I think he's worth taking a shot against here, as he's probably, he's listed as the 5-2 morning line favorite. He's had some success over this course and down over turf, but I think maybe vulnerable, as is the other favorite, number 1, Shea Brennan, who's a 3-year-old taking on older for just the second time, has never been on the turf before and draws the inside. He's going to have to really like this course to be victorious. So I thought this was a race where you might get a little bit of pace, not tons, and maybe a price could come out on top at number 4, Sir Rocket. Neil Drysdale not winning races as much as he once has, but still capable. And this horse has the ability to finish here. Should be a good price. And one thing that I just recently noticed, Armando Ayuso has a positive ROI in an almost 300 race recent sample size in turf races. So an under the radar rider that does good work on the turf with some prices.
Neil Drysdale, Armando Ayuso with Sir Rocket. But the world's going to be looking in on this race, not only for its presence, it's a feature on Santa Anita's card on Saturday, but what is it going to mean towards the Breeders' Cup Sprint? Here's Lovesick Blues doing almost the unthinkable, winning last time out at 18-1 in the Bing Crosby, and then following it up with another head scratcher in terms of race placement.
Still Crazy Mason as they come to the top of the stretch. It is Hijazi and Juan Hernandez turning for home in front in the Bing Crosby. They've got a 2.5 length lead. And then roll on Big Joe in second. Lovesick Blues has run a big one on the outside and is trying to close the gap at 18-1. Here comes Lovesick Blues on the outside. And Lovesick Blues and Giovanni Franco have won the Bing Crosby. And Hijazi
may have set a record there for biggest lead blown by a Baffert Stakes horse. I mean, he looked gone in that particular spot. So a good effort to reel him in by Lovesick Blues. Let's see what he does down the hill and see what they ask of him in this spot, right? It's got to be trainer intent's got to be a big question mark. So therefore, you don't take a short price if you're not sure.
Exactly. That's the deal. I mean, obviously he's run as good a races on this course as most, if not more than most in the field. But I just think you got to wonder, about the placement. It kind of feels forced, unless, maybe people know that Librado Barasio has been looking to this spot all along, but I didn't hear that. So to me, it feels kind of like, we need a race maybe. Let's get a prep in, but it doesn't seem like the natural spot.
No, I mean, the original was after the Bing Crosby was we're training up to the Breeders' Cup, and everybody's kind of like, boy, that's a long time to go, a July race, that sort of thing. I don't know, maybe the horse is kicking the barn down and they got to do something with him, and you can't get that in the morning. You don't want him running off in the morning. We'll find out. You get to run off down the hill, that's for sure. I mean, they'll get to open the lungs up flying down the hill there in that turf sprint. The California Flag, race number 7 at Santa Anita on Saturday. We go from Santa Anita to Keeneland on Saturday, where the final grade 1 of the fall meet is offered on Saturday. Keeneland's grade 1 Queen Elizabeth II Challenge Cup. 3-year-old fillies in this one at 1 mile and an eighth. Undefeated Laurel in here going for 6 in a row. That's going to be my choice in this race at Keeneland. Scott, I know you're going just to the inside, though. We got the 2 inside runners. Laurel the 2. You're down on the rail with Lush Lips.
Yeah, this is a good race. I mean, as you would suspect, and this, obviously for 3-year-old fillies is kind of the pinnacle at the end of the year. If you're going to be a 2-turn turf horse, occasionally they'll take shots at the Breeders' Cup, but not as often. This is a big spot. And I think Laurel Lynn obviously merits serious respect. She keeps passing all the tests, but I think this is the toughest spot she's encountered. Yep. I think Lush Lips has encountered the best fillies in the country already, and mainly Nitrogen when she was on the turf course, and she was holding her own. But what I like most is not only has Brendan Walsh been red hot to start the meet at Keeneland, but this is a filly that struggled to relax throughout most of her races. But as we'll see here in the Tepin way she's finishing, she relaxed early for the first time there under Flavian Pratt. And then she did so again in the Del Mar Oaks. She didn't win, but Velocity, a long shot, got a trip up the rail. I'm not holding a runner-up effort on a trip out west against the filly from Kentucky. Nope. And then she's been freshened up. I think she gets the run of the race. Lush Lips for me, 5-1 would seem pretty fair, but I kind of expect it with the Cox runners and, of course, Laurel Lynn.
All right, let's go back and take a look at Lush Lips winning the Tepin Stakes. 2 starts back.
And here comes Lush Lips, and Vixen is cut loose too. Vixen flies in between. Princess Attitude in behind, Furlong to go. Lush Lips has kicked away in a big way. Lush Lips 5 clear to the wire. And from off the pace, she scores by 4 in the end.
Horses from Saratoga won 10 of these Queen Elizabeth II Challenge Cups in the last 19 years, 4 of them off Del Mar prep. So that West Coast run from the Del Mar Oaks Inn has been a decent path, and Lush Lips will try to follow that. Laurel Lynn amongst those coming out of the race at Saratoga. Opulent Restraint also in that sort of category as well. Good addition. You got Fion in there, who I haven't talked about in the Queen Elizabeth II Challenge Cup. All she's won is 3 in a row, coming off the win at Kentucky Downs last time out in the Dueling Grounds Oaks. Good addition of the Queen Elizabeth II Challenge Cup. Maybe not a superstar from overseas like we see some years, like Mulch coming in here a couple years ago, but a good-looking group there for the QE2 of domestic runners. To Aqueduct, we will go next on the podcast, and this weekend we've got a couple stakes races for you. Belmont at Aqueduct meet, and we'll get the screen up here. We've got the Artie Schiller and the Glen Cove for you on the program. Races 4 and 10 from the Big A. On the turf at 1 mile in race number 4 for the Artie Schiller. Got to be a turf mile if you're going to be named after Artie Schiller. And then the Glen Cove will be a turf sprint at 6 furlongs. So let's go to the Artie Schiller. Belmont at the Big A on Saturday, race number 4. Scott, how do you line up this group? We've got a modest field size of just 6 in here.
We do, and I think it's going to go very well for Big Everest. It didn't go well last time at 4-5 in the Red Bank at Monmouth. But there was a Jersey bred horse in there. There are no words who finished second. That was a speed horse as well. And for whatever reason, Paco Lopez was very willing to let that one go. This one did not really like being rated, but still was not on the lead. I think it ended up being quite detrimental to his cause. Now second off the bench for Miguel Clement, back home in New York, should be loose on the lead over a turf course. He's 5 for 9 over, not creative, but Big Everest, wire to wire.
Some horses just have one way of going, and he seems to be that way. Get him to the front and see where you end up. Big Everest, 2 starts back at Saratoga, went to the front and stayed there.
They're coming to the quarter pole. Big Everest turns for home in front, hasn't been asked yet. Here's Nelson Avenue angling off the rail into second. Down on the inside, General Jim, I'm very busy, is in between horses. Nantasket Beach has dropped back. Big Everest a length, threatened by Nelson Avenue. Big Everest on the outside, Nelson Avenue, Big Everest, coast to coast.
In this race, Scott, the even money morning line favorite, Major Dude, is kind of one of those in-betweeners. He's not really a miler. He's not really a 1.5 turf horse for like the Breeders' Cup Turf kind of division. He's kind of stuck in between. He's not particularly brilliant. He seems like the kind of horse to be susceptible to some speed like this. So I think he's vulnerable in a spot like this at a mile when you want a horse with a little more brilliance.
I agree. I also think Major Dude, this is a horse that peaked early. He was very good down at Gulfstream in those 3-year-old turf races where you kind of have these horses dominate. And not like he hasn't had a productive career since then, but like you said, not a world beater, and he's going to be up against it from a race shape perspective, it appears.
All right, let's move to race number 10 on Saturday. Belmont at the Big A. No problem with the field size in this one. 10 entered, a couple main track onlys as well in this turf sprint. Fills up as turf sprints tend to do so. What'd you go with in this one?
Well, I'm going to contradict myself and tell you there's not a lot of speed in here, which is the concern for me. That does make things interesting because Pop Idol, two back, as we'll see in the Galway on August 7th, wired out the field, and she could get loose again. But I'm somewhat confident that me, Governor, drawn right to her inside with Ricardo Santana, will do enough early to keep her honest, if not take it to her. And I think if that happens at all, Love Cervere, who's not going to be a big price in here, but is a very talented filly, she's really done very little wrong throughout her career, and it's tough to win race after race when you come from off the pace, as I just kind of was speaking to in turf sprints. But man, I mean, last time out, she finished second in allowance at Keeneland, and the start before the Galway, like we're going to take a look at now, she made a very wide move against the profile of the turf course that day, and still was very close within 2 lengths of the lead to finish third. So I just think this is a very talented filly against a good field, but one that she's better than.
This is a rematch of the top 3 finishers from that Galway Stakes at Saratoga. Interestingly, that you look at that rematch and you say, why would Love Cervere turn the tables on Pop Idol in this spot? Pop Idol's got one race, the Matron on the Belmont turf, or the Belmont at Aqueduct turf. What the hell am I saying? It's not Belmont. It's Aqueduct. It's always been Aqueduct. It's still Aqueduct. It's not Belmont. It's Aqueduct. And on the turf course there in the Matron Stakes at Aqueduct, she ran one of the worst races of her career, whereas Love Cervere has a win over the turf course at Aqueduct. So changing venues might get us a changed result, but here is the Galway we talked about. Top 3 in there, all back in this race, including Abiento.
Just inside of her is Laurice. Laurice on the outside, and Love Cervere trying to get to front-running Pop Idol, who's running a very big race with 1 furlong to go. It is Pop Idol clinging to a lead. In between horses, Magnolia Prime, Laurice, Love Cervere on the outside, and from way out of it, Abiento is coming fast. Pop Idol all the way in the Galway. Abiento closed like a shot.
Interesting that John Velasquez riding back at Aqueduct this weekend. He's been riding so well at Keeneland. Had another win on the card yesterday. Won a bunch on opening weekend. But Johnny V heading home to New York for Saturday. He'll be riding Belmont at the Big A. To Woodbine we go next for the Ontario Fashion Stakes. It's a 6-furlong sprint on the Tapeta main track there for the Fillies and Mares. Grade 3 company at Woodbine in race number 10. Interesting runner in here is Gal in a Rush. Last time out, won the Presque Isle Masters at 10-1. Now heading back north of the border. It's been to Woodbine in the past. Didn't have a lot of success up there. Has won stakes over that track, but certainly in recent form, the Presque Isle race was the best race that we've seen from Gal in a Rush in some time. The 5-2 morning line favorite for Miguel Clement. Let's go back to Presque Isle and take a look at Gal in a Rush. Slip up the rail and get there in time.
Outside in third, Miss Tart is also moving up, coming up on the far outside. Late move from Ellen J. Ellen J is 7 wide, but it is Natoli Magic who hangs on to the lead. On the outside, coming late, is going to be Tricky Temper along with Ellen J. Up the rail, flying is Gale in a Rush. Gale in a Rush in an upset. Very tight photo for the place position.
All right, Gal in a Rush coming off that win in the Presque Isle Masters, but just 1 for 5 over the main track. Did win the Seaway Stakes at Woodbine. Maybe a little vulnerable here at a short price. Do you want to take a short price after winning the Presque Isle race at 10-1?
I do not want to take a short price, and I think you basically spelled out the point. I think the Presque Isle, I learned at Turfway being involved with that product for a good bit, and intensely, every day, that all weather surfaces, synthetic surfaces, do not play the same. So making the assumption that this horse is going to be just as good at Presque Isle or Woodbine, etc.,
Right.
and that goes for everybody in this field. I've got concerns about anybody that's run their better races outside of town. One horse I think that's run her best races inside of town at Woodbine is number 5, A Little Frisky, a daughter of Army Mule that's been freshened up, coming off a 4th place effort in the Seaway. Rode the rail into the lane that day, finished well, good late pace rating on Brisnet, as we like to see. And I think she's set up for a good trip in here, and we know she can finish over the surface. So hopefully Josie Carroll has her ready off the freshening.
Expect Girl in My Dreams to pop to the front in here with Biles the 2, a little bit of speed matched up, but late runners in here, A Little Frisky, probably just off the pace, not far off the pace, and then further back, Gallon of Rush. So you should get the jump on the favorite, I think, too, in terms of the pace scenario. Let's go now from Woodbine to one of our 2 regional state bred championship days. It's Maryland Million Day on Saturday at Laurel Park, and the 1 1/8 Maryland Million Classic will be the headline race on that 12 race card. The 11th on the program, 150 grander. Interesting horse showing up in here. He's one of the best Maryland breds of the last couple decades for sure. One of the best horses to run at Laurel Park, maybe ever, with a 10 for 10 record. His name is Post Time, and this time a year ago, he was prepping towards the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile, where he would end up running second on Breeders' Cup Championship Day to Full Serrano last year. He's obviously stepping down in class, and now at age 5, he's 3 for 6 on the campaign. Maybe not quite as good as he was in the past, but he's certainly not down to this level. So what do we make of Post Time showing up in this spot? I know Hillwood Stable, his owner, wants to showcase the horse in front of the Maryland fans once again, as they did in the Polynesian a couple starts back. How are we beating Post Time in here? He's 10 for 10 at Laurel, Scott.
I don't know if we are, but he's going to be like 1 to 9, right?
Yeah, right.
So I just think that's a little bit excessive when you look around. And I mean, I don't think it would be if it was just our friend Mugatu, a friend of the, I don't want to say of the podcast, but a friend of the Slack channel, Mugatu.
There's some people internally at First Bet who are Mugatu fans. Let's just say it that way.
I have been declared one because I would always think he just showed up at the big 3-year-old races for a while. But anyway, he's got a lot of heart, that Mugatu, but I don't think he's going to beat Post Time. But there is a horse with some upside here that's done very little wrong and also drops back into the Maryland bred ranks and has been taking on open company, and that's number 2, Barbadian Runner. He's got to answer the 1 1/8 question, and I think that's somewhat Post Time does too. And that's, if this was at a mile and a 1-turn mile, right? Post Time to me would be, we probably wouldn't be talking about this race because I wouldn't have picked it, because it would have just been picking Post Time.
Right.
But Barbadian Runner to me has some upside here. A horse that's 3 isn't bred to get the distance, but I think he's kind of outrun his pedigree already. So they only spent $5,000 for him. So maybe this horse can spring the upset at what should be a little bit of an inflated price, expecting Post Time to get absolutely hammered.
Henry Walters trains Forrest Boyce aboard. Barbadian Runner trying to take the baton in these state bred championships. When a 3-year-old could win the Classic, you could be around for a long time in these divisions. You see 4, 5, 6, 7-year-olds continue on. Let's see what he does in his first appearance in the Maryland Million Classic. Here he is winning back in the springtime when he won the Miracle Wood Stakes over this track at Laurel.
Crab Daddy is next. Barbadian Runner angles just off the inside of that pair as they turn in, and Sacred Thunder really up against it now, has to muster a big rally on the far outside, but still coming with a run. Barbadian Runner on the outside now to grab a narrow lead from Pay Billy. Barbadian Runner, Pay Billy, they're head to head and quickening away. Sacred Thunder on the outside trying to grab third from Crab Daddy. A 16th left to go. Barbadian Runner running to the line. Pay Billy's coming back on the inside. Barbadian Runner and Pay Billy photo. Barbadian Runner and Pay Billy in the Miracle Wood.
Good race there. Pay Billy turned out to be a pretty solid enough 3-year-old. We'll see how Barbadian Runner steps up and runs in the Maryland Million Classic. I've got some picks for you on Maryland Million Day and West Virginia Breeders' Classics Day in the blog section at expressbet.com and at news.first.com. So check that out. I've got 2 plays for you on the undercard at Laurel, not including the Maryland Million Classic, then 3 for you from Charlestown for the West Virginia Breeders' Classic. The Sam Huff West Virginia Breeders' Classic I was there in 1987 for the very first one of these. $300,000 purse. It was $100,000 back then. That was a lot of money back in the day for Charlestown when they were literally running 2,500 claimers, and an allowance race was like 4,800 to 5,000 for an allowance race back then. And to come along with a $100,000 stakes race for the West Virginia Breeders' Classic was big doings. Now they run more than $1 million for the Charlestown Classic, and this Breeders' Classic worth $300,000. Named and created by the great Sam Huff, the legendary linebacker for the New York Giants. Had a chance to interview him for an ESPN.com piece many years ago, and it was one of the favorite interviews I've ever done. He was just point blank, man. I mean, he just spoke. And guys like that we could use. Think Mike Rapoli, but with athletic credentials, if you would say. I mean, just he really spoke his mind. He did great things for this West Virginia Breeders' Classics. Now, again, since 1987, when we're looking 40 years almost of the Breeders' Classics. In this race, we've got some familiar horses, Scott. Horses who have won this race in the past. Muad'Dib has won it twice in the past. Last year, Ronaldo won it, both trained by Jeff Runco, who has dominated this series over the years. Runco, a former jockey turned trainer many decades ago, but is absolutely the all-time leading trainer at Charlestown by a long ways. Arnaldo Boca Chica and Runco team up often. They win these races often, and Ronaldo is named for Jeff Runco and Arnaldo Boca Chica. He's actually named for the jockey and trainer. How are you going to beat that? The defending champ and the horse is named for the guy, and the guy's riding and training.
Well, we got to try. You know what I mean? You got to try. Any narrative like that takes extra money, so we got to try. Yeah. He's last year's winner. I guess I kind of look back and wondered if he was coming into the race this year as well as he was last year. So at a shortish price, I thought maybe there were reasons to think that he wouldn't. And then you look at the pace; it should be pretty honest in here. No Love for Juba and teaching the release should go at it, I would think. So I'm hoping the old veteran Muad'Dib, you said it a lot better than me, but he likes this distance. I have concerns whether, the fact that he hasn't been traveling it in some time, maybe he's just been prepping the whole year, though, for this race, $300K. So hopefully he's set up for it. He's going to get the pace. It's not an overly confident opinion, but it's a pretty good race.
Teaching the Release is actually the morning line favorite, and here has been running exceptionally well off 3 straight wins, including the Frank Gall Memorial. This is a horse who was second in the Onion Juice, the race on the undercard here at 7/8 of a mile last year. So now he's stepping up to the big leagues, getting out of the undercard races on Classics night and going for the big money. Stephen Murdoch, the trainer, high percentage outfit. This horse contributes to that high percentage with a 13 for 31 lifetime record. Since being claimed, this horse, I believe, has won something like 6 out of the 10 races since coming to the barn for Stephen Murdoch. Teaching the Release, the morning line favorite, but you got to beat the Runcos if you're in these races, I say. And Runco was able to pull it off last year when Juba with a Twist was a huge favorite. Runco took him down. Let's go ahead and take a look at last year's West Virginia Breeders' Classic finish.
So the favorite's going to have to overcome a tough trip, but here he comes. Muad'Dib strikes the front, and Juba with the Twist comes after him. Ronaldo trying to follow that move, but as they hit the turn, Juba with the Twist up to challenge Muad'Dib, and now Ronaldo is let loose, and these three come around the turn together. Juba with the Twist, Ronaldo produced, Muad'Dib at the rail. These three are well clear of the rest of the field. Juba with the Twist has to dig in. Muad'Dib cut the corner. Ronaldo 3 wide. These three come down to the finish together. It's a thrilling Breeders' Classic. Ronaldo, Juba with the Twist, come down to the finish. It will be Ronaldo. Ronaldo scores, and he does it by a half length in the end over Juba with the Twist. And then came Muad'Dib, and late in the game in the Sam Huff West Virginia Breeders' Classic.
Going to get that kind of finish again. Again, we kind of have a 3-horse race. You've got the favorite and the 2 Runco veterans who have won this race. We get that same kind of finish. It'll be worth staying up late after 11 p.m. Eastern, the post time for the Sam Huff West Virginia Breeders' Classic. The race after that on the card is the First Bet Breeders' Classic. We're proud to be a wagering partner and sponsor with this year's West Virginia Breeders' Classic, so be sure to check out all that action. And if you're betting the West Virginia Breeders' Classics on Saturday, you should be doing it with First Bet and Express Bet. because the late pick 4 and the late pick 5, Scott, have a $2,500 hit and split on each of those sequences. So an extra $5,000 up for grabs on the hit and splits on Saturday at Charlestown for those West Virginia Breeders' Classics. Also want to mention on the promo side, if you're betting the Maryland Million Classic, the Breeders' Cup Bankroll Challenge is the Maryland Million Classic race on Saturday. Bet $25 on the Maryland Million Classic, get 5 back. You can bet $25 to show on post time and get $5 back. I mean, that money will go back into your account on the eve of the Breeders' Cup. So all wagers, intra-race wagers, Exacta Tri Super and Win Play Show are eligible for the Breeders' Cup Bankroll Challenge. The Saturday race, Laurel, the Maryland Million Classic. Why not? Or take a shot at Scott's longer shot pick in their Barbadian runner. Some great promos this weekend on those regional championship days.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And JP giving out free money advice here. Post time is a cinch to finish.
Marketing people have just sent me a mean message right now, I think.
Oh man, but yeah, it's an interesting week. I'm excited for today, which I'm already excited for because it is today. But later on today, I'm looking forward to these carryovers. And then Saturday, we're going to be all over, as you can see, venue after venue after venue. We're bouncing around early morning. Well, not early morning. We're not doing the Euro thing, but we're going late into the night here, California into Charlestown. Looking forward to it. And most importantly, Jeff, rest in peace. And it's a real honor to fill in his shoes as much as possible, or his seat, I guess, really. But yeah, tough week, but hopefully we can do him well by following suit here.
You got to rock in your chair if you're going to follow Jeff's chair. I mean, you got to get that going when you get cranked up, because that's certainly the Siegel move. We'll miss him for sure. We're happy to have you on board, Scott. We're happy that everybody tuned in this week to listen to the podcast and watch the podcast as well. Have a great weekend playing the races around the country. These carryovers today, don't forget about those. 10 times first rewards points on the Sunset 6 today. When you bet with First Bet and Express Bet. Have a great weekend, everybody. I'll be back on Tuesday when we go for the It's Official podcast to wrap up a very fun weekend of racing. Good luck.